Hello, in this video I want to take a little break from all the crazy stuff happening in the world and review probably one of the funniest debates I ever saw, Alex O'Connor versus Peter Hitchens on marijuana legalization. Okay, so let's start.
I simply give you Peter Hitchens. Peter Hitchens, thanks for being here.
So far, so good.
Suella Braverman last year, after the Conservative...
So let's just appreciate how crazy the opening statement of Peter Hitchens is. So far so good. It's almost, it foreshadows what's about to happen. Okay, so let's continue.
Example, you talk about the comparison that's often made between cannabis and alcohol and cigarettes, but specifically in relation to what we've just been talking about, children, for example. Smoking tobacco is still legal in this country and many adults still do it, but there's been such a successful, almost propagandist re-education campaign about the dangers of smoking that young people, it's falling off the map. Young people just don't smoke anymore like they used to. Now,
No, they vape instead, but I don't think that really tells us very much. It's not. It hasn't just been a propaganda campaign. It's been the use of the law. People, particularly employers, anybody who runs any large building, and particularly anybody who runs a pub or a restaurant, is very much afraid of the law. And of the strong civil law consequences, in this case, of allowing the smoking of cigarettes on their premises, and that's been the real driver of the diminishing of smoking.
so I suppose what I'm asking is, can't a similar approach be taken to cannabis?
Well, I just said if you use the law, then indeed it can. If there were the fundamental law which enables you to act against the smoking of marijuana is the 1971 Misuse of Drugs Act, even in which is a very, very filled piece of legislation, but it's perfectly applicable and could be applied. In Japan, they have a similar law against possession of marijuana, which they apply, and as a result, certainly, let's not say as a result, because causation is the hardest thing in the world to prove, but there is no doubt that both Japan and South Korea, where its possession is still severely prosecuted and punished, are both societies in which it's much less used.
That's true. Although the Abbey Care Group, which is an organization dedicated to helping people struggling with addiction, cite South Korea as the fourth most alcoholic country by in terms of males. That is, males with alcoholism. It's the fourth most popular.
Well, that's
and I wonder if
that's as maybe I can't address that.
Japan has a problem with workaholism.
I have to say, so what? If you want to go and argue with the South Koreans about their alcohol laws, that's fine by me. I myself would very much favour much more stringent alcohol laws than we have in this country.
Yes, that's
the ones that we had before the middle 1980s, before the Thatcher government began to destroy them and the Blair government then totally destroyed them, were quite effective. And there was much less drunkenness,
I think
much less drinking when those laws existed than there is now. I'm all in favour of bringing that back and would do so if I had the power to do so.
What I'm asking about, or I guess what I was implying there, was that we sort of trade one problem for another.
No, you don't.
Yes, there are effective cannabis laws in South Korea and Japan, but this might just be trade one problem for another.
No, you can repress them both. Until the 1970s, this country had neither a marijuana problem nor a major drink problem.
Okay, so we are still in the realm of just having a normal debate. Okay, I actually, the older I am, the more skeptical I am of smoking weed often. It's definitely not good for you, So what I learned from my own experience even is, as a wise person once said, alcohol is worse for your body and tobacco, but the cannabis, it's worse for your mind. If you get drunk, you probably won't have like an anxiety attack or existential crisis, thinking about death or something like that. Cannabis can trigger that. It can trigger schizophrenia, many other bad things. So yeah, I don't think you have to be crazy in order to want to prohibit marijuana. So yeah. You can say I care more about negative consequences of cannabis than about alcohol. And I mean, if I was Peter Hitchens, the argument that I would use, which he's sort of implying, is that okay, sometimes it's better to be a hypocrite than to do nothing. That's good. You know, if your argument is if you make weed illegal, then you have to make alcohol illegal, which is very unpopular and will probably never happen, then your counter argument could be, well, okay, we are not making alcohol illegal because that's just so unpopular, you know, and pointless. But let's just focus on one problem. Okay, let's continue.
But no, you can't see that. Instead of taking the point and listening to what I say, you can only come up with, but what about alcohol? It's banal. It's time wasting. And frankly, I can't be bothered with it. If all you've got to say whenever I say introducing a third legal poison into our society would be terrible is we've already got 2 disastrous legal poisons in our society, then I begin to doubt your intellectual capacity. This is not an argument.
What I'm asking
You bring up the subject of marijuana. You ask me why I think it would be a bad idea to make it legal. And when I explain why, you say, but what about alcohol and tobacco? It's apart from anything else, it's incredibly tedious.
I don't think that's exactly what I was trying to do.
Well, it's what you repeatedly do. Every time I offer you a reason why we should not legalize marijuana, you come up with a counterpoint which involves saying, what about tobacco or what about alcohol? It's noticeable. Anybody who looks at what we've just been saying will see this. I would cheerfully stamp out the smoking of tobacco. I think it's probably possible now. And as I've said, and I'll say it again, I'm in favor of the tightest restrictions on the sale of alcohol.
The debate here is slowly starting to get off the rails, but Peter Hitchens, I would argue, fails to make some good arguments against cannabis legalization. For example, cannabis hyperemesis syndrome is one of the worst things that can happen to you if you smoke weed. So if you smoke too much weed, you can get abdominal pain, nausea, and vomiting. Yeah, it happens to some people. Then I would also argue weed has become much stronger with time. You know, I remember when I was in high school, it was much weaker, and it's kind of harder to regulate actually how high you're going to get. While when you're drinking, you can more easily regulate how drunk you're going to get. That would be my argument, you know, but I'm kind of playing the the devil's advocate. I do believe that I would say I'm in favor of legalization, but I'm willing to be persuaded otherwise when it comes to marijuana. Okay, let us continue.
I don't care whether you're a utilitarian or a Puritan Christian moralist. The arguments against the abuse of drugs are very powerful.
I wanted to draw a distinction between moral arguments and legal arguments here. That is, I can understand why you might have a moral objection to taking drugs generally, putting aside the societal...
But you're treating me as if I'm some kind of actor in society who can have any influence on events. You're saying, oh, if Peter Hitchens says we should have a law, we should enforce the law punishing the possession of marijuana, then the country will enforce the law punishing the possession of marijuana. No, nothing of the kind will happen. I have less influence on the actions of this government than that chair over there. I have no influence whatever.
I'm just interested.
I say these things because I'm writing the history of a country which has destroyed itself. I did at one point think that I might influence these events. I don't influence any events, so I don't. I'm writing the obituary of a country which died.
I'm only
largely at its own hands. That's all I do. I'm not here making legislative proposals, which you can say are a bad idea. I gave that up long ago.
But the reason why I think this is important is because if we're talking about decriminalization, then we're talking.
Well, you can talk about it.
Then we're talking about.
I'm saying decriminalization happened long ago.
Then we're talking about the law, right? And
it happened. It has taken place. It was a stupid thing to do. It's demonstrably stupid. I can say that it's demonstrably stupid. I've written about how stupid it is many, many times and spoken about it. But the idea that somehow or other my continued existence in saying these things is a threat to those who long for the country to be a drugs free-for-all, and that therefore my arguments about the details of law enforcement are important is absurd. It doesn't matter what I say.
It's actually probably the funniest part of the debate to me personally, because Peter Hitchens just decides to argue at one point that this entire debate is useless, which is to me hilarious. But okay, let's continue.
I think I've had this actually. I think if this is going to be about drug decriminalisation, I'm bored. If you want drug decriminalisation, good luck, and enjoy the society you get as a result. But frankly, I'm sick of the subject, and I'm also sick to death of the people who promote it.
So be it. Will you be all right?
You're entitled to use that, by the way. Feel free to do so if you want to. But I think you've had me here on false pretenses.
What?
And if you run this interview, I shall say you had me here on false.
I'm sorry. Which false pretenses?
Well, that this is going to be an interview about several subjects. It's nothing but drugs.
Yeah, I mean,
Nothing. You're obsessed with drugs.
This is the first topic of many.
You're obsessed with drugs.
This I had
Sorry, I think that
I had planned to.
I've written about it. You've not read what I've written about it.
I have.
You haven't.
Yeah.
Obviously haven't read my book.
I have read your book.
Well, you're obviously reading it with the lights off. You're not aware of anything that I've said.
I have a number.
You haven't read what I've written about Portugal, which is easily found.
I've read that too.
Well, again, you've shown no signs of having done so.
I had.
If you're interested in seeing the full absurdity of this event, go to Alex O'Connor's channel and check it out. Peter Hitchens is one of the most hilarious political commentators, in my opinion. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.